said.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order for the Planning Board, October 23rd, 2012. Anybody here that would like to speak to matters that are not on the agenda? I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented or changes.
I motion to accept the agenda.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Minutes. Everybody get a chance to read over the minutes from the October 9th meeting?
Make a motion we accept the minutes of October 9th.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? A&Rs. Park Street and Greenwood Court, Williston, Northampton. Come on up, John.
Okay.
You're starting to become a fixture.
Sorry, trying not to let it happen.
Get that corner.
This is the time. Yeah.
We purchased a strip of land from the city along the bike path that allows for access along the side of the building. Two-way access. We had designed a parking lot out behind the building before and had years ago started working with the city because of the brook, we wanted to stay as far away as possible, so we'd gone through Conservation Commission and everything. Then in the meantime, Bike Path had taken over the property and we'd worked with them to purchase that. So basically this just combines this strip of land into the rest of the property that we have here.
So this is just joining the strip that you purchased from the city?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this parcel, I believe we had done a plan before. Originally, our property ended at the brook
Yeah,
here.
it ended there. Yeah.
And then we had a strip that was 64 feet wide or so that went all the way back here.
Is that a part in the building, or is it at the edge of the building?
I'm sorry, what's that?
The strip you're talking about?
Oh, the strip started, yeah, we owned beyond this is a Zamboni room on the back, we had owned down through here.
I see.
And then we purchased this parcel from Winners probably 10 years ago, and we owned this house for a while, and we sold the house, but we kept the land along the stream here. And I'm pretty sure that we had done an A&R plan before to combine these two parcels into the original. And
Yeah,
so
that was
this
done a while ago.
Right. So this one would be just added.
So the only change is this front strip along the bike path?
Right.
Just like an imaginary line from this point to this point?
Correct.
Yeah, it used to have the same width going.
Yeah, that was.
Okay.
And basically, it just gives the flexibility.
A little more space.
And if I remember right, this was just purchased so that you had automobile access?
Right.
On this,
Yes. Yeah. And this parcel's just tight for us. When the hockey rink was built, that property was actually zoned industrial. But at one point when the city was cleaning up spot zoning issues, they changed that to residential, which means now every time we want to do something at the hockey rink before with the parcel that we had here, because under industrial we were allowed 50% coverage, so when it got changed to residential, that dropped significantly. Not that I was, in some ways we're exempt, I think, from a lot of those things, but it just makes it a simpler process. We own all the land, it's silly for it not to be a single parcel.
So basically all you're expanding the size of the lot, so we're not really there's really no
Yeah,
issue.
and if we owned it all anyway, and I'm not sure that it would even make a difference if we didn't combine it, it just is cleaner if it's all one parcel. So it is really a housekeeping thing for us.
A motion to approve the Park Street and Greenwood Court extension.
Second.
Any more discussion? Any more questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, I need to sign a couple of them. Good for you. And somehow I think that was a Tom Sawyer movie.
Kind of a railroad job, was it?
Cal's making a motion to bring it back.
Well, as I see it, January's coming up and we'll be reorganizing, so.
January. It is.
Time goes by so fast, before you know it, it'll be.
I think it's what we're over it goes down faster.
Yeah, not long now. You need two, right, so?
Yes. One for planning, one for city clerk.
Okay.
You want a copy for the files, because that goes to the registry, so.
Yes, yeah, if there is a copy, that's
Wait,
great.
that's a sign one, I think.
Yeah, you can never sign, I think you I just want to sign copy for planning, sign copy for
need one
city
more.
clerk. This stuff will show me a signed copy, but you want to sign it, that's fine.
Why do I sign two?
That's all I need. Oh,
Yeah, but you gave one away.
oh, I see what you're saying, okay, sorry.
So now I think everybody's got what they need.
Have a good one.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I come back, I'll try to make this easy again.
Any
But
questions on
something
the
tells me that won't
plan? This is
happen.
actually probably the first time I've seen it. I think I know what he's doing here.
It's another case of deja vu.
Yeah, he, the original lot line, I believe, started here and across
And I did speak with him.
back to this point. So he basically just added this to the lot and subtracted
Yeah,
that
that's great.
as this one.
So subtracted this and added this.
Right. Subtracted,
Okay.
Parcel A.
yeah, parcel A, which is 3,655.
And then added the easement to parcel C.
Yeah,
what's happening with parcel A?
Where's parcel A going?
Yeah.
with here.
To this,
Yeah, yeah.
to this other area?
Right, I think there should be a note
Well, that's gonna be
A
an
and C.
easement through there.
But C is here.
Let's see.
Parcels A and C.
Yeah, let me,
Parcel A is to be conveyed
difficult for me to read.
I thought that was really good.
I was suspecting.
upside down.
Okay, parcel A is to be conveyed to and combined with the budding land of Pine Valley Realty to form one parcel containing 38,000.
Oh, this is Pine Valley Realty.
Right.
Okay.
So this is going over to here.
So it's removing from
And this
here.
came off of,
Okay.
this little section here is adding to C. And parcel B, which is this piece, is to be conveyed to and combined with the budding land of Bernard P. Gall, parcel C, to form one contiguous parcel.
So this should have had a letter designation though, so that it was clear that
Well, yeah.
this narrative does not
Right.
say where A is going.
well,
Or it doesn't show it.
Well, it says Pine
So
Valley.
Yeah,
it's to be
okay,
combined with
okay.
the Pine Valley is there, it just doesn't.
But I got chastised by the city attorney on one of our first A&Rs.
So actually, for simplicity, he probably should have, or the surveyor should have designated this as parcel D.
Yeah, I agree.
But it is,
Yeah, but it is designated as parcel.
I think there's-
Pine Valley Realty Corporation to form one parcel containing 38,000.
Yep.
It seems like in both cases, we're adding plenty of land so that it doesn't affect any of the,
Right.
sightage and,
You're looking at frontage requirements.
Yeah, we're looking at frontage, and this is corner lot,
right?
Right.
so, and I'm assuming that this is 120.96 total frontage, that zone is adequate.
And actually, I'm looking at this, and Wallace Circle is actually, I came in here a number of years ago, and we rescinded that plan, so actually, half of Wallace Circle goes to either of the abutters.
Is it a private way then?
It's, well, they removed it.
Oh, it's not even there, Wallace Circle
Yeah, it's not
doesn't
even there.
exist.
So,
So we would be looking
it's
to
not
see
on
if
here.
this has 120 feet.
So this Wallace Circle was split between the two?
right, right.
120 feet
Well, that adds to the frontage on this side.
Yeah.
parcel, what did we have?
But it should have been in here.
Down here, where?
I think they were just going off of what was probably shown on your assessor's maps. It probably shows that.
This is still Painter Street on the assessor's map?
Right, I think so.
Don't know.
Why was this
So
an easement?
technically doesn't go.
Right.
But half of it is goes on the other side.
What was that an easement for, that give them access?
This easement here, I think that there's, there should be an explanation on there.
What was the frontage on that lot?
Well, this one right here,
100,
it says that
120.96 total frontage.
120.96.
It says total
So
frontage.
it just makes it, okay.
I think that's going to be an easement. It's
it
supposed to
just
be.
makes it right.
Is that kind of being removed? It's
Drainage.
an old
And
easement?
then
or-
this over here would be, because this isn't here, this doesn't exist, so the frontage on this is like
Oh, that's
pretty
what it's about.
adequate. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So there's no frontage number on here.
Right, we have no frontage number on
Is there a
lot.
scale? You can measure it with the scale if you needed
Right.
to. There's a scale on the.
Well,
so
the
you can-
Pine Valley Realty Corporation lot is a pre-existing lot anyway. So that's being, parcel A is being added to that.
You can add it to this one?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it says, I know it says parcel A and C. Parcel A is to be conveyed to and combined with the budding land of Pine Valley Realty Corporation.
Check your
And
little
parcel
ruler,
B,
as it is, to make sure that when
this
taking it away, he included
piece is to
the...
be conveyed to and combined with the budding land of Burnett Creek Golf parcel C to form one parcel.
All right, it's passed all my tests. I motion to approve.
Slug your horse.
Yes, discussion phase, that's what it's for.
You don't have a second on the motion.
Not yet.
Just second and discuss.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then it prevents outsiders from adding. But I mean, we're 120 feet from these 2 points, correct?
Yeah.
120.96.
Just did a measurement using the
So
scale.
we're good.
Yeah, 6872 on the radius and then 5224, so that's 120, 96.96, so it's just a,
Yeah, that's the ruler, that's the scale right there, 120 feet right there.
All right, so anybody else have any questions?
No.
You made a motion?
I did make
Is there
a
a second on the motion?
One second. No one else will.
Wait,
Because I made it.
Is there any more discussion?
who's the second?
Second is Chad.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Can I ask a question outside the A&R discussion?
yeah.
Is this where there seems to be some activity going on? This is off the street, correct? There's one of his properties, it looks like there's some activity going
Yeah, I
on.
think that there was,
Is there a subdivision that was,
I couldn't tell you one way or the other, but I do know that one of the issues that he had there was with drainage. So this land, I think he was trying to topo it a little differently,
okay,
so away from the houses, so,
okay.
but you can pretty much be assured if Bernie Gall has some land at some point, he'll want to subdivide it.
I noticed there was a parcel that had some backland activity going on
Right,
that I can't
right.
see from East Street,
Right.
and so.
I think what
I
happened
think it's one of his
was,
properties.
I know
What was going on.
he cleared some of the land in the back here because of drainage. I think his wife has this house and he has that house, and they were getting water in the basement, so they had to
I see.
level it and, just,
Okay.
I can guarantee one thing. There will not be any building going on behind those houses on East Street.
There will not.
There will not.
And
Never, ever, ever.
Ever.
I know that for a fact. When I was a kid, I used to play up there. And the rubber thread, National Felt, and a couple of other entities, there's a dump up there nobody even knows about. We're talking about a big dump.
Oh, yeah, that is,
yeah, and Mr. Zolak always, he goes up there and gets all kind of bottles and stuff.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and we used to make slingshots and all that. I mean, I'm not-
That's one of the places
This
they
is like-
investigated.
This is like 50 years ago, or 55 years ago. Remember that one on? There's a dump of rubber pellets up there. I mean, it was a disaster. And you go up there now, and it's all been filled in here and everywhere, so you don't even know that was even existed. If the EP ever went up there with a bulldozer and started going through that thing up there, then you wouldn't believe the horror show that come up.
It's nice to have the history. We went to high school together. Harry Rubeck and Eddie
Yeah.
Bauman.
When you see Mr. Gall, tell him that he did an excellent job on those little pine trees up there. Because that was a real source back there. So he did a
Are
really
you
good job.
facetious or you be?
No, actually, they were the worst looking things when he first put them up, and I think he did it as a ha-ha to us, but now they're starting to look a lot better.
It was really nice, seriously. It was really nice.
One other issue that Kingsbury Way, I did talk with Jim about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I asked him, what had to be done, because I'm in the process. We're trying to get as much of those roadways to Fitzgibbon and to the city council for approval and acceptance. So I asked him where the hot spots were and what had to be done. And then also, because of his letter, when we requested the release of the covenant, so he was supposed to, and I'll call him tomorrow and remind him, supposed to get a letter to the planner or to you. He said that he didn't think it was as extensive as he thought initially, because some of the work had been done. So he was trying to reach a figure that we could either get a letter of credit or, do something so that we could get those lots released, so that
As soon as Jim sends it off to Jessica, she'll let me know. And
Okay.
We'll put it back.
Yeah, maybe what you can do is just alert me when you've got the letter, and then I'll come down, and then we can, if you can let me, probably, I'm sure you're going to want to have a meeting to consider what you want to request as far as security, the dollar amount. So just let me know when that's going to happen, and then we'll get it done and come back to next meeting so that we can get those on the tax roll and he can start selling them. I don't know who wants to build, but there may be somebody out there. Maybe the guy from the brewery needs a house.
He does, actually.
Who does?
He's looking for a house right now, or at least a rental house.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Yeah.
That's the Fort Hill Road Brewery. Guy's a real nice kid, that kid.
He's a nice guy.
He's about ready to break ground, right?
He's about ready to break ground. He's pulled building permits
You
and,
should have seen him when he came before us for that permit. He was just a jelly roll. He was so nervous, it was
I know,
unbelievable.
he was,
He said,
He's been-
this is going to turn to a parking street, is it? That's what he says to us.
oh,
He
he's gotten all of his ducks in a row. He's very well organized. and
oh, you saw that at
He's kind of like a model applicant, actually.
Keep out.
From Williston, what's his name?
Or the other one.
don't know.
kind of lit
Jeff.
up,
Jeff, right, Jeff. I knew Jeff, but
I don't know, I can look it up though, I think I got it somewhere.
Okay.
Was it on the application?
Probably on a copy of it.
David?
Oh, you have,
I have an extra copy. Do you
Oh,
want to
great.
take it?
Thanks.
I know he's in charge
He's
of
one of those guys that takes his glasses off
Here's
the
one
right.
here, David. Hold on. Is this from the last other? Can we take this one too for?
That's for
Well, it's because he's.
For the East.
Attorney Alan Zadonis,
Farstead, so. Years.
yeah, he's supposed to, where is,
But the,
This is not the
Jeff's name?
Yeah.
Okay, there it is.
Cursive, yeah.
We'll get it. I'll get it.
Yeah, that's, if anybody can read that, that's no big deal. I'll find it.
Okay, do we want to do, continue discussion on the proposed ordinance? Or do committees want to have things that they want to present?
I have one administrative item, but I can do it now or later. Up to you.
And I owe you 2 weeks worth of master plan, so let me know when you're ready for that. You do that now or her thing now or whichever.
If people want to get the administrative items done, I'm fine.
Mine's very
Diverting.
quick. I just want to remind David and Jesse, who's not here, that their reappointments are up at the end of the calendar year, and so they need to notify Karen in the mayor's office if they'd like to be reappointed by the 1st of November. Okay?
Hopefully Jesse sees that in the
I can email him.
video.
I forgot he said he wasn't going to be here today, so I'll email him and let him know. But if you don't get your name in, then you don't get reappointed because it goes in the batch, I guess, to city council is how it's done.
Yeah, it goes in one massive appointment.
So if you miss the vote, then you have to reapply.
Do you have,
You want me to go or do you want him to go?
don't matter, who wants it?
Please.
You want me to go? Last Thursday was a CPA meeting, okay? And anyway, they were, before the meeting starts, we're all, they're all talking and everything else, and then there was like a joke about the taping, No, not really a joke, but nobody was, it was like a ha-ha type of thing. I mean, nobody was serious about it. So the more I thought about it, I said, well, I gotta say something about this, So I said to him, I said, look, when the meeting's over with, or when I have a spare moment, I want to talk about the taping. So we got to do our business with the soccer fields and the baseball fields, and anyway, I told him, I said, look, I says, this taping thing, I says, we get taped as every point of order. So the first thing we do is we get the tape warnings. First thing we do. And I said, sooner or later, these meetings are going to be taped, whether you want it or not. I said, I don't care what kind of vote you take. You can sit there and take a vote, it could be 7 or 8 to 1, or 8 to nothing, whatever. I said, you're going to get taped. I said, you can either do it now, or you can do it later, but sooner or later, it's going to come down from the mayor's office, or the town council, or the mass legislator, somebody. He's going to say, look it. And I just wish they would have some kind of protocol with this taping thing, because, it's nice to put all this stuff in here, but why not say, okay, as of a certain date, all meetings, committees, boards, what have you, will be taped. But they were like, so this guy says to me, I'm not going to mention his name, he says, well, that's going to be one reason they're going to have a hard time filling the board, because people don't want to be, they want to be taped. I said, you got nothing to hide on the tape. You're on a committee, you're there for a purpose, you've got a viewpoint on something, whether it be positive, negative, towards whatever you're looking at, and that's the way it goes. You express your viewpoint. Whether it's being taped or not, it's got nothing to do with it. And it just kind of, normally I'd be on the other side of this kind of issue, years ago. I would have been that person and say, well, you're not going to tape me, but now I know I got a whole different attitude. And I know after being through this a few years, it's going to happen. And so why prolong it? Why not just get in line with everybody else and just go ahead and, join step with the rest of the people, rather than, well, we're not going to do that. But it got me so funny because they said, well, we're going to take a vote, and if we take a vote and it's going to be, whatever the vote is, that's where it's going to be taped or not taped. And I said to them, it's got nothing to do with it. You can tape right now, and you can say, okay, we got 7-4 and 2 against, or whatever it happens to be. It's not going to matter.
Did they vote?
Yeah, we're not getting taped. And it was for me.
So the majority voted against.
It's kind of frustrating.
I just want to say, and I know it's your report time, but by way of commentary, I'm really glad that you stood up and supported it. I agree with you completely. I think you did absolutely the right thing. And, what are you going to do? Either public outcry or the mayor, as you were saying earlier, will take a stance on this.
Yeah.
And I hope they do.
I had to talk to the mayor on that too, because I started kit and caboodle on it. And he said eventually it's going to go to the council, and they're going to tell you whether you should or shouldn't be taping. And I talked to a couple of people on the council. They said, our meetings are being taped. 90% of the meetings and committees are being taped. So eventually, everything's going to be taped.
I don't think there's any good reason not to.
The only guy that agreed with me was Councilor Hagan, because he's on the CPA. And he said to me, well, I'm a public elected official. So I figured I should be taped like that.
It's safer.
Yeah. I said, well, sooner or later, I've been a part of that for a couple of years now, and you give out a lot of cash on that thing. You're talking some serious money. Serious money. So to me, it'd be a lot, if it was all on TV, you could actually see the procedure and, who said what to who, and to me, it'd be a lot better, I think.
I just think it keeps the people informed. A lot of people don't know what CPA is all about.
But anyway, I got crushed on that one, I gotta tell you.
Anything else? Anything else that happened at the meeting that you want to let us know?
How many hundred?
Well, what happened was, we had two separate applications for money. We had the Little League wanted a couple $100,000, and then we had the soccer people that wanted money also. And come to find out they can't apply for cash, it has to go through the Parks and Recreation. So now we're waiting for that guy to show up. So he shows up, we'll be grilling him about it, and then we'll probably all agree to it, more likely. That's what it looks like right now anyway. I mean, I can't say for sure. And then if that happens, then I'll probably send this thing out to bid. And hopefully we'll get, I want to see some 3, 4, 5, whatever bids on this thing, not just like, 1 or 2 or whatever. I want to see. Then you're talking almost $400,000 here. $400,000. So when you got all these overrides on the horizon and everything else, and that's a lot of money.
Is that it? Anything else?
Well, I can't really say anything about Route 10 because everybody they're in the process of finalizing the committees, how the committees work right now.
Okay.
So there's the same 3 people are finalizing, are putting together the finalization of the thing, and it's so funny because I sent a copy of our thing from the Pioneer Valley Planning, and I think I'm allowed to do that. To our assistant chair and our secretary of that committee. And I thought for sure I'd get a reply.
From what committee? I'm sorry.
Route 10.
You sent, what did you send to?
A copy of our Pioneer Valley Plan. The guy was here.
The traffic.
Yeah, and I says, looking at it, I said, a lot of the stuff is going to overlap. With your Route 10 and Pioneer Valley Planning, it's going to overlap. But this might give you some ideas as to finalization, how they presented the whole thing with the tree being so big and the roots, I mean, that guy did a great detailed job there. And I thought they might be able to take some ideas off of that for their finalization. You know what kind of reply I got on that?
Nothing.
0.
Right.
They might
Didn't even
put it aside
get an honorable mention.
I thought I might get, hey, thanks for sending it to us, we're not even going to look at it, but thanks for, thanks for the update, something to that effect. I got nothing.
Oh, gosh.
As I expected.
But the last meeting went well, though.
Route 10? Oh, Route 10 went very nice, yeah, very good.
I think it was very collaborative, and
Oh, yeah.
it was a good exchange
Absolutely.
of ideas, and very civil, and... Hey,
I like the way you said that.
That's a big
Peggy.
step.
That's a big step.
No, that's good news.
That's real good news.
It was, It's so funny because it seems like there's like 12 people on there, and everybody wants to satisfy Eddie Fedor. That's what it seems like. It seems like everybody talks about something. Is that right, Ed? You know, I mean, it's it's kind of funny sometimes.
I think Ed's a great guy. I like him a lot.
Eddie Fedor? Absolutely. I mean, he's like one of the founding fathers of Easthampton. I mean, you know, a businessman and everything else, a landowner, and whatever. Bernie Gauls, I'm into a meeting now, and Christ, what, 3 or 4 months? Haven't seen him, so you know, he must have just washed his hands of the whole thing, because he was there all the time. At one time. That's about all I got for this.
Okay.
Now you're rattling.
All right then, Master Plan Implementation Committee has been meeting steadily. We're doing well. We're now at a point where every single person has attended and we're a full 9-member committee. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what we've been doing. I did that the last time we met. But I will tell you that I did have an action item to bring back to this committee, the terms for the members, and we have located that. And for the record, is it all right if I just quickly read these out to you so we have them?
Oh, yeah.
Now, I know that this needs to be approved. So you might consider taking a vote at the end of this so that I can then send an email to Barbara saying these have been approved and these are the terms, or maybe there's some other step that you know of that I'm unaware of that needs to occur.
No, we just need to vote on it.
So vote.
My only concern now is that maybe we do it next meeting and put it on the agenda that we're going to vote on.
That's fine.
On it before we take
don't
a
mind
vote.
Yeah.
Because I kind of think that the catch-all that I have here for administrative items, I don't know if the vote falls under that.
It's totally
Right, but I'd just like to say, I thought that would be handled by the committee, knowing what the parameters are. We did talk about the parameters, how the terms would be maximum 3 years, but initially they need to be established so they overlap.
Right, and we've done that. We've established what they are and who's what. But
As far as I'm concerned, I don't, as a planning board member, I mean, I believe the subcommittee knows what the goal is and can certainly achieve that on its own. I don't see the need to take a vote. I don't see the need to postpone it by having to put it on, do a public notice agenda thing and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, I just want that, because if there's something that isn't right, Barbara's going to let you know about it anyways.
That's true.
I'm not convinced that when we voted to set this up that I'm not sure how we left it, but I don't tend to disagree with what David's saying as far as needing to vote on it, as long as procedurally we've covered things. I mean, we set the board at 9 members
We did.
at one of our last meetings, so I mean, that part's been done by us as an overseeing
I
board.
believe we voted on that in June, actually.
But I think
So then I'll just communicate with Barbara.
I'm fine with you putting it in the minutes of your subcommittee and handing the minutes in and sending it into the public record that way too. I don't, unless somebody else says that we need to do more.
That sounds good.
I'd like to say, as long as we're on the topic, I viewed the 2 of the videos for the. One of the videos is posted at EatCat as being a planning board meeting, so that kind of threw me. It's titled Planning Board, but I didn't recognize anybody.
I have to say, I think the problem, Jim, is that when you start the tape, you haven't said that you haven't opened the meeting of the Master Plan Implementation Committee.
Really?
You've
I swear I said that.
I made you say it the last time, so it
That's
wasn't
why
confusion.
I say
But
it.
the previous meetings, you haven't stated what the
So
meeting.
Kat didn't know which...
She didn't know who it was.
okay.
So I think it's important when you open that meetings, you have to say,
Yeah. Consider me advised.
and the date would be helpful, I think, too, just so they,
Yeah, the date's not nearly as important because it shows up on the
on the
recording
tape.
meeting.
Yeah, okay.
All right. I'm
But
sure
the,
it's-
but that's, I didn't bring it up to, about that. It's just that I saw 2 of the videos, and I like how you're running the meetings. I like how it's going. I like how you're organizing the topics. Voting on taking a list, and then everybody votes on that. And you score them, and then that would be the next area to go into or to discuss and stuff like that. It seems like the meetings are very calm and directed, without being without you totally directing it completely. You know, it's like everybody's just following. It's done very well, I guess I'd like to say. And it looks like it's going to be very productive.
There's a lot to cover. Thank you.
I noticed, yeah, I was looking at the minutes and thinking, well, that's pretty interesting, you know, and the agendas, and
It's ambitious.
it's very ambitious. There's a lot to cover, but I think it's going well from what I can see.
So is
The
everybody,
videos, you know, which is the value of the videos.
so everybody's comfortable with just letting the subcommittee put it in their minutes and send it?
Yeah, because they're alternating years anyway. so-
Yes, that's how we did it.
Like I say, if Barbara finds a mistake.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay.
You know what's nice about this committee's legal. No, I may sound ridiculous, but we formed that Route 10,
Oh, yeah,
That whole
they
thing
weren't
was-
legal.
totally wrong.
Did everybody?
We had lawyers on there, we had Beckley on there, and it got up on the wrong foot, the wrong people.
Ethics.
Went through-
testing.
I read the application, I
At the
remember.
last meeting, I asked if anyone
Went
had
through a
done
little
it, and
bit
no one
of that.
responded, so I think we've got them all.
Okay.
There were a couple of people that had skipped that one meeting, so I'll double check again next.
Jim, does everybody have copies of the plan?
Everyone that was there last time said they had a copy of
Okay.
the plan. I know you've got some,
I have a couple of extras, but I just wanted to make sure that I had, everybody had a copy.
thank you.
Yeah.
Jessica, did you?
That was it, just the reappointment reminders.
Okay.
Oh, CPTC, you're going tomorrow, right?
Thursday.
I think it's tomorrow. 24th. It was Wednesday.
I will-
It conflicted with the rag check. It conflicted with the rag check, which is why I wasn't going, so.
Because last week I sent out the agendas on Thursday.
I believe it's tomorrow night.
I will double check.
Okay, look at the CPTC website.
But
Is anybody else going to anything? No? Okay. Hopefully you'll think about attending the one in March, which is a full day, $50.
I think you're right, it's the 24th.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's
24th, it's tomorrow. Okay, good, glad I brought it up.
Yeah, so-
That would have been wasted $30.
Okay. Ideas about the bylaws for green development performance standards. Do we want to start going through this from front to back, just item by item, or people have ideas?
Well, that's certainly one way to go about it, is to start with the section. Some things that came up at our last meeting concerning it when Chris was here, is that that's probably throughout the entire document, is the subjectivity of to the extent possible or the extent feasible and those kinds of things. I feel strongly about changing that into something to approach this in a way that doesn't leave to situations where you have volunteer boards, dickering with,
Forced to interpret things.
right, and not nearly as knowledgeable as the person making the proposal, and being told that this is the extent feasible, and they're going, oh, okay, well, whatever. And it's too, as I pointed out, we put people on the moon, so we know what's possible, right? To the extent feasible doesn't really work for me, because you can do just about anything, just how much you're willing to argue about it. So
No, I
I'd
agree.
rather incentivize it. If there's a way, as we go through the document, to look at how to create incentives to promote the kind of desired behavior through a point system, a credit system, the same approach that was used with the districts.
The 40R?
Yes, those districts, things like that. There are trade-offs. Now, some of the trade-offs that were mentioned at our prior meeting, I would not support, like allowing a building to be taller. I feel strongly that there are reasons for that. If you look at the preamble to any code, they'll say, in order to protect health, safety, welfare, all this kind of stuff. So I have to believe that the ordinances or the codes that were fashioned under that, trying to meet that goal, that basic goal, had some meaning to it. Why is the building in certain districts only allowed to be 35 feet tall, for instance? Why is that? We don't know. All I know is that there must have been some good reason for it to just, without knowing what that is, say, so we'll let you build it 40 feet tall, if you do this. That doesn't work for me. Not unless we want to really explore, what all these, I'm sure we would all learn a lot about. I once got a hold of a book on the Roman Empire and how they arrived at what essentially were zoning ordinances. If the street was so wide, the buildings could be closer to the street. Narrow streets, the buildings had to be farther away because there was the idea that sun had to reach the street, which is good for mental health and physical health. Stuff like that. So there are reasons behind why the ordinances and building codes and such exist the way they are. A lot of good people put in a lot of time to come up with that. I don't want to undo it haphazardly, but there are incentives that could certainly be that would be less
Onerous?
well, any change. This is already being viewed as onerous by some people. I mean, just the idea that you have to do something different than what's already happening. No, something less drastic as allowing a building to be, another story to be built in a building or something like that as a trade-off. But there must be other things, more density, greater density, stuff like that. So that's just in a general sense going through this, and maybe that's a place to start, individually as we look through this, but also going through a section at a time, but keeping that in mind every time we're going to run into that all through here, because I know that I was here for the November meeting, and that seemed, those are things that Chris added in because members present at that time were saying, well, yeah, that sounds pretty good. But I don't think it's so good.
Why don't we just go around the table and people can give their concerns or impressions quickly, and we can then decide how we're going to proceed here.
No. I'll come at next meeting.
Okay. Harry?
Whatever we come up with, can that stuff be challenged? Or is this going to be...
This is a draft, right?
This is only a draft, and it's an ordinance change, so we have to draft the changes. We have to have a joint public hearing with the ordinance subcommittee and the planning board, and then it has to go to the city council after we, if we accept it and the ordinance subcommittee accepts it, then it goes to the city council.
And they pass it, then it's a law?
Right.
And they can't be challenged?
Because we don't have a town meeting vote. Any towns that have a town meeting vote, they send their ordinances to the Attorney General for review. Because we're a city, we're not required to do that.
It doesn't mean if you do something that's questionable, an attorney somewhere isn't going to...
Well, that's what I mean. There's no way the city attorney would make it bulletproof, in other words.
If there's a legal challenge to it, then it could be reviewed by the Attorney General, but this is part of the benefit of being of home rule. You get to do this, and
we can ask the city solicitor to answer questions if there are things.
I'm just curious, in case I had some...
You can ask for verification, but the same thing is, when we were drafting the sign ordinance, I called the Attorney General's office and asked if they would do a courtesy review, and they won't do that for you because of budgetary issues. They won't do it. Because it would save the city money rather than have our city solicitor do it.
that's the disadvantage of being a city.
We're be able to get the preliminary review.
Yeah.
Right, and of course, any ordinance that's passed, someone's going to come up sooner or later and question it. And until that happens,
That's right.
it stays there until it's questioned.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about this whole thing, because as soon as something comes up, and it's going to involve, one of our builders in town will say, or our real estate guys in town, they're going to say, well, this isn't right, or so whatever, and next thing you know, you got a they got a mess, you know.
I
But they can,
guarantee you they'll show up much earlier in the process. If this is actually moving forward, I think they'll be at the public hearing.
And they should be part of the public hearing on it if they see things that are not going to work or whatever, they're allowed to.
but the old saying goes, if you don't play the game, don't make the rules, you know?
Well, I don't know about the playing the games, but I don't have anything really, because what I did was I put a lot of notes on mine, but I didn't, for some reason, I didn't bring them with me because I wasn't at home at the time. I just rushed here with what I had. But if you want, we can go item by item. It's, well, like Harry said, you know, what we do here that goes on with the subcommittee and us, and it goes down, you know, anything will be questioned. I had a lot of notes that I had on it, so I'll just have to use my memory as we go item by item there.
Can I add my 2 cents when you guys are done?
Yep.
So,
I'm concerned about a couple of things though with this. One is the length of it. It's very, very onerous as far as I'm concerned. If we're trying to streamline our zoning ordinance so that people are not confused and everything, I think this adds a potential layer of confusion. There's a lot of enforcement questions I have when he was going through this where some of the stuff about trees and what have you, and there's other instances. I like some of the smaller components that are in here, but I really hope that we can shorten this considerably and have the best items that are in here taken out in a much more condensed format so that it's not as
Now, would that be our job?
lengthy a document. Well,
It's our job
it's our
right now
job
to draft it.
To draft it.
Yeah.
Pioneer Valley Planning Commission is making their expertise available to us through this process. They're willing, Chris had said last time here, when he was here, he's willing to rewrite and change things. So I mean, we have a chance to sort of go, my understanding, what we had talked about, what we were going to do as a board was we were going to go through this, come up with a set of recommendations. It was going to go back to Chris, and then we would work with it. I don't want us to add another long conflicting section to our ordinance at this point in time. That's my concern.
I agree with both David and yourself in regards to the extent feasible is problematic, and really we really would need to tighten that up considerably. I believe that this is a very complicated bylaw. I don't believe it's very well drafted. I think it's confusing. It's clear that, I mean, problem is I was working at PVPC when this was in the initial stages of being drafted, and I know how it was put together where he was pulling pieces from separate bylaws and trying to blend it into one entity, and I think it's very complicated in terms of how the final product came out. You know, and I guess in sort of my little bit of irritation in terms of the draft that was given to us, we have zoning districts that are referenced, that are Palmer's zoning districts, they're not even ourselves. Right. So I'm, you know, even though I think there's some good parts to this, you know, I guess I'm concerned that the level of detail on what was presented to us was, could have been a higher quality. And, you know, I have some real concerns about a simple site plan review for a single-family house that has to go for the planning board. And I just think that really complicates and consumes a lot of your time, my time, the building inspector's time. So I think that we just really need to figure out what in this we really like and we want to save and hold on to. We can think about taking pieces of this and integrating it into our existing special permit process or site plan review process or subdivision regulations. So, you know, even though this is presented to us in this format, we can slice and dice this, I guess, in a way that makes sense to us. If there are portions of this that we really like that we wanted to move forward with. But, you know, I think it's complicated, and I think the way that it's currently drafted, it would be very complicated to administer for myself, for the planning department, for the building inspector, and for this planning board, so.
Correct me if I'm wrong, when Chris was here and we were discussing this and we were sort of dissecting this, didn't he say that he was going to take all the information that we gave him? Wasn't he going to redraft that and send us copies, or was I mistaken in
No,
that?
he said he was gonna, I think he said he was
Or
gonna
was he
wait
gonna wait
until he
till
heard
our-
from us, right?
He
Is that
discouraged, that's
correct?
right. Yeah, I discouraged him
That's
from
right.
doing that. I said,
Right.
But, well, so I like the goal, I think it's always a good, but the town did recently adopt a stretch code.
Right.
And that has, but that's through building, issuance of permits.
Correct.
To subject, especially 1 and 2 family dwellings, to any kind of layer of, subject them to any kind of hearings, to review these kind of things is not something I'd be agreeable to. But there was another area that we discussed last time that I've thought about more, and that had to do with parking lots and preferred parking spaces for people with green automobiles, or
Yeah,
we talked about doing it by size, automobile size. I even have a problem with that, because there is some people have to have big cars because they have a lot of people to cart around, and especially where it involves kids, you're going to send them across the parking lot because they've got a big car. There are a lot of class issues that I have with trying to do things in that manner. I think that, liking the goal of this, I do like the idea of, my attention is always drawn to a house that's not parallel to the street, set parallel to the street because it's like a grid, but rather oriented to the sun, to make some other sense of it other than this just how the direction. It's a real sore point for me, because when we bought our house, it wasn't until after we put down the deposit and everything that my wife said, she kind of like woke up in the night, she says, like, what side of the house does the sun come up? And we just totally blew it. We didn't even, so we called the owners, and the people had lived there for 18 years. And the previous owner said, I never thought about it. So I would really we probably wouldn't have bought the house, and I've tried to do everything. There's no way to kind of fix it without cutting down a bunch of trees, which we're not going to do. But anyway, the point is, I think that there are, I like the idea of not coming in and completely disrupting the landscape, because it makes it easier for heavy equipment to roll through and do things quicker and supposedly more efficiently. And so there are a lot of things in here I think are pretty cool, but I think they should be presented as an incentive. And it's like, if you do this, then you get this as a give me. And that way people, there's no weighing anything, there's no subjectivity there. It's like you leave the trees, then you get to maybe possibly encroach on a setback a little bit, because when you start viewing the trees the same way that variances are given, you view the trees as existing structures, as being part of the topography that's in the way of putting the house exactly where it should be. Things like that are pretty easy to quantify and look at and determine. But have people do it voluntarily, not forced. That gets rid of the enforcement, element of it. We don't need any more enforcement issues, in town. We have one enforcement officer who is also the building inspector, and so that doesn't really work.
And I'm comfortable as a community saying to people that you have to abide by the stretch code, but I'm not comfortable telling somebody that how their house has to be oriented on the lot, even if it does face south. I mean, I would say it makes sense, but if you own a piece of property and you're building a single family or a 2-family house, you may have other considerations that we don't have in the mix here. So I mean, I do agree that incentives to do things that make the house more desirable in terms of energy efficiency and green standards are great, but I don't think this should be a heavy-handed leveling.
I mean, maybe there could even be, money incentives. I mean, this is how people are solarizing their homes, with incentives from state, federal sources, and that seems to be working. First, you have to be able to afford 2/3 of a solar system, but that's working. And if there are ways through the permitting process to, for instance, forego certain fees or reduce the fee as part of the incentive to comply, or incorporate one of the green standards, through zoning. That's just a way of thinking of it. Because as a community benefit, I mean, the goal of these standards would be a benefit to the entire community in the long run, and there has to be a way to recognize that benefit and reward people for doing it. But again, I feel strongly it should be a reward system or incentive system, not a mandate that needs to be enforced.
Sometimes just applying the word green can be a fabulous marketing tool when trying to sell something, in this case a property.
Yeah.
Maybe by adding it to the property cards or some piece of information so that a realtor can say, and the house is officially city labeled green, or something like that. Something like that could help in just selling it, you know what I mean?
It does.
So you need some structure where the city could officially label.
But there already is a labeling system. It's called LEED, which is a nationally recognized green energy, sustainable design. But it's expensive to do LEED. But that, to me, it doesn't make sense to have a local system when there's already a national system in place.
Well, unless just on the local level, I mean, there are all kinds of so there's LEED, but there's also for wood, there are all these different outfits certifying wood to different standards. Organic is kind of the same way. If you look at all the labels that are stuck on food, you find out that some of them really aren't that great, and others are greater than you thought. And so maybe what James is saying is not such a bad idea, at least to when Easthampton and other communities agreed to adopt certain standards. There's a plaque upstairs on the wall that says we're a certified, green community. Well, that's there's no organization behind that except the state. I mean, they just kind of made it up. It looks great, That's good. But I mean, it's sort of the same thing, Maybe people like recognition for doing what they feel is the right thing.
I'm going to send you guys by email something for you to look at and consider. I'll pass it around right now. It's from the 21st Century Land Development Code. It's a book that I had when I was at PDPC that's sort of just rethinking zoning in a more efficient and sustainable manner. So there's a sustainability section, and this is where I stole the idea of this point system, is that it's sort of based in the LEED concept, and the way that it's set up is commercial development shall achieve a minimum score of 22 out of 64 possible points. Multifamily hits 18 out of 52 points, and all other residential development consisting of new buildings or major renovations. So I think that's kind of an important difference. Score 17 out of 49 possible points. And then there's this whole list of all the different things that somebody could do
To get points.
And
is that what makes it expensive, those things, or is there like a fee to get the certification? When you said it was expensive.
It's kind of both. When you go through LEED certification, you have to have somebody who's certified in the LEED program to come and do the inspections to make sure that you're doing everything. There's a cost of submitting the application. There's a cost of the building materials. I mean, it's just a higher cost of development. But if you're willing to do it, there's energy savings in the long run. You have to think long term, and you have to think big picture. Not everybody's willing to do that, but that's, there's a cost to doing the LEED. I'll send this around, and maybe you can take a look at it and see whether this is the type of format that maybe we could take this draft and sort of changed the format, so it allows people to sort of pick what things they're going to hit. It's not saying you have to hit all of these different, you have to hit recycling, you have to do this parking thing. It's saying you can pick 3 of these things or whatever to get the points that you need in order to, and again, we could make it more of an optional rather than a mandatory and say, you know, in order to get this label of Easthampton Green Performance Standards that you can use as a marketing tool, you know, they have to hit these certain point structures. So it's just another way of taking the same information but thinking about it. But I'll email this to you, but I'll pass it around right now for you to quickly look at it.
I think
I have another thing, I agree with that, but when I got through going through some of the internet areas, the cost of going green is cheaper when you start from the bottom up than if you have an established, like say an established home, and you want to project going green between solar, some areas you go through, a lot of these lots don't even have trees. So part of going green is planting trees, shrubs,
It's
and
site
things like
design,
that. But what I found that it costs almost 50% more for an established home to go green than if you were just building. And you can start green because your cost is already embedded in that. And that's where it's gonna...
And I'll say that the homes on the Easthampton Meadow, all of those energy efficient, those high energy efficient homes that are associated with the treehouse are selling like hotcakes.
Yes, they are.
I mean, they are
Treehouse,
just,
yeah.
I just signed off on 5 building permits for that today.
I can imagine it's a big
They're
market.
very, I mean, people are moving from other homes in Easthampton to move into those houses because they are
Right.
so incredibly energy efficient. It's
I
a
remember
huge
when
marketing
when they first came to the planning board and when Treehouse was first being developed, and everybody looked at it and said, you know, it can't be done, but as it grew, it just, there's not going to be enough, I don't know if there's going to be enough homes for them to keep going. They'll have to find more land to start another treehouse somewhere else.
They're done.
No, but I mean someone else, if they could start something similar to that, and that's where I think a lot of builders should take a look at and going to.
I'd personally like another meeting before I start to run down the things that I want to go through. But I'm wondering what kind of plan, you know, how you want to go about gathering the ideas and reforming this.
Up to everybody.
Well, how about, I have an idea if we look at what Jessica's going to send around. I thought that was really, that's pretty neat. That's kind of, you know, the check boxes. I like, one of the things that jumped out at me was, and this relates to what Chet was just talking about, there actually are a number of things, a laundry list of things that cost no more to do to a house, new or, you know, remodeling. For instance, the color of the roofing that you put on the house, the reflectivity of the roofing material is big. And these are decisions that people go, well, no, I want a black roof. I don't want a white roof, you know, or I don't want a gray roof, I want a black roof. But it makes a big difference, and these are things that we can also consider in terms of remodeling. And as I say, it costs no more to buy a roofing in a lighter material than a darker one. Typically, I mean, there may be some exceptions to that, but I've not seen them.
Well, yeah, that's if you're in a remodeling stage. That's the same thing you can do with siding and everything else.
But, you know, driveways, for instance, you know, blacktop. Well, blacktop.
Driveways don't have to be black. They can be
They
gray.
don't, but they are, most of them.
Yeah, or, I don't know, white.
I mean, it would be definitely very cutting edge for the region and the state if we came up with something, because this hasn't been adopted before. So, you know, we have an opportunity to be again at the forefront of this green movement, which our city seems to be doing, so.
This would be great.
And I agree with James that I'm not ready to, I don't think we're ready to act on any of this tonight.
No, this is, I see this as a multi-meeting process. This is not going to happen.
It's probably going to take us at least 4 or 5 meetings, I think, if we really are going to go through this. Or, you know, if you want to ask them to reformat the whole thing in a different way, then...
We don't want to put something forth in the interest of just being quick to do it, because I think this has a number of high hurdles to make before it'll be accepted. And I mean, I just don't want to see us complicate our ordinance with confusion or, so if we can redress this plan here so that it's much more understandable and easier for people to do,
I think we eliminate many of those hurdles just by working at it from the direction of voluntary instead of mandatory.
Yeah, I think that, with the stretch code in there, that's not voluntary, and that's already in place. So, I mean, we're already asking people to do more than the National Building Code currently has. So, but I believe that the stretch code is really just out in front of what's going to eventually become the National Building Codes.
Definitely.
It would be interesting to get a perspective from somebody who's in the development community in terms of a voluntary ordinance, and would they actually take advantage of it? And what would be the motivator to get them to take advantage of it, rather, above and beyond just the marketing of it? Is that enough of an incentive for them to go through the process? I think that's an important question to ask.
Maybe if we did it as a city, we could communicate with LEED and get some sort of discount or something like that, because it's in our ordinance and the entire community is pushing for it or something like that, so that homeowners that did it could get LEED less expensively than maybe they could in some other community.
Well, I think in terms of developing, when you talk about developers, to me it goes all the way from the individual homeowner who decides to, do their own place, and then contractors, all the way up to people doing developments. If I had to guess, I'd say that probably developers, well, it depends on who they are. I was just thinking of the transfer of property rights kind of thing.
Development rights.
Nobody's taking advantage of that,
No.
and that's incentive based,
Right.
But that only appeals to people that own, tracts of land that want to do something with other tracts of land.
I think it also, part of the reason why it hasn't been utilized is because it hasn't been
Publicized.
Well, no, it's just not at the forefront of boards in Hadley. Somebody comes in and they say, you can do TDR, and here's the formula, and if you want to reduce your parking, this is the formula, and I mean, they really sell it. There's a sale that goes along with it. They don't have a city planner or town planner, so it's up to the planning board to sell the idea, the concept, and they've been very good about that. It's something they know that they have really gotten a huge bang for their buck in terms of the amount of agricultural land they've been able to protect, because they're using that money that they're pulling out of TDR as a match for the APR program. So they're getting 90% of their dollars from the state. They provide a 10% match. They don't have CPA, and they're using their TDR dollars to protect ag land. So for them it's a huge motivator, and it's a sales job.
Yeah, because when
If it's not in the forefront, if you forget about it, then
when we adapted that to the planning board, Hadley was the model for it when it was proposed here in Easthampton. And it was great guns, because even the builders and the contractor, they all came in and said it was a great idea. And then the great idea sort of went to it's a real good idea, and then that's okay. And then all of a sudden, like you say, unless you're there selling it, it doesn't work. And every time we tried to bring it up in some ways, it just didn't work at all. I didn't know why, because it was a great plan.
What we're hearing is that it's sales or marketing, and it's basically getting the word out and letting people know. And what we need to do is to make sure that the homes that are under this green effect are noted on the city website, or there has to be some list, and then the follow-through would be with realtors that are local, so that they know to point this out, and because that's where the sale happens.
This is very good.
All right, so we'll go over this after we get the emails.
And in combination with what we have,
And
try to incorporate.
Come up with a, I
pick
think,
this up again
form
at
or
our next
system that
meeting.
works.
Yeah, some kind of a form, you know. If we all have something that we have viable that we can write down, each of us, and then try
That's a
to,
good idea. Maybe
Try to
like
combine it
five
and then-
or something.
you know, put it, well, we can send it to you on our ideas, and you can pinpoint what's good and what's bad, and
Well, we
maybe
have
by
to
the
be-
time we have a meeting, we can,
We have to be careful, you can't
I think,
develop it.
I think you just come prepared to the meeting with your notes
Yeah.
and
You
then we'll
can
discuss.
send something in one direction, but you can't go back and forth and deliberate with
Right.
emails.
well, I wasn't saying deliberating.
No, I'm just saying,
I mean, the other option,
Cautionary.
if you wanted to, you could send me your stuff, I can compile it into one PDF file, and then I can just send it all back out to everybody, so that you've got everybody's
that wouldn't
comments
be too
before,
bad
and that's
either.
another option, so that you can see what other people are
Yeah.
talking about or thinking, but
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
That wouldn't be too bad.
All
That would
right.
keep me out of trouble then.
we try.
Thank you very much.
Anybody have anything else for this meeting?
Not me.
A motion to adjourn?
Second.
No, I have to.
I motion to adjourn. And I was
Is there a
willing to second.
Who are you going to second? You're not seconding?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
I
Opposed?
didn't want to tie into that.